Want more revenue without services? Add Tressic to your stack to turn conversations into outcomes. See how at Tressic.cloud.
Hey everybody, it's Doug Green and I'm the publisher of Technology Reseller News. And it's my great privilege to have back with me today Chris McHenry, CPO of Aviatrix. Chris, thank you for joining me today.
My pleasure, Doug. Good to see you again.
Nice seeing you. And we're talking about some breaking news, some big headline. Aviatrix enhances zero trust security for cloud native workloads. Aviatrix 8.2 has been launched. So we're going to be talking about that in just a second. But what is Aviatrix?
Yeah, so Aviatrix, we specialize in securing the cloud. You know, the vast majority of the important data, the important business activity today takes place inside of these public cloud providers. We've got AWS, Azure, Google, Oracle. It's global, right? And this is also where a lot of the new AI workloads are landing and acting autonomously and doing all of their crazy stuff. And so it really has become, in many cases, the epicenter of the things that we need to secure. And Aviatrix has been, for the last 10 years, really building what we call the cloud native security fabric, which is a rethinking of how you build fundamental network security in a way that is optimized for cloud workloads so that we can secure that heart of the business. It's not about how do you build and put a firewall in the cloud, which in many cases, unfortunately, most customers don't have today. There's a whole new model, right? Workloads look different. The way you deploy those workloads, the way you interact with them, the way you automate them, very different than what we had on premises. And so the Aviatrix Cloud Native Security Fabric is really a rethinking of how you build those fundamental security controls to contain those workloads, to restrict how they communicate with the internet, to prevent how an attacker could move laterally. And we made some really big enhancements with our 8.2 release to improve the way that we secure, especially those modern cloud native workloads, Kubernetes, serverless, the things that run those AI agents. So it's a really exciting new release for us.
So you recently enhanced your network security solutions regarding zero trust. So is that what's new?
Yeah, so zero trust has been a core principle for us for a while. You know, fundamentally, zero trust is a way of rethinking how we implement security in environments, right? It is the concept of least privilege access. Don't try to block the bad things, try to allow the good things. And there's plenty of frameworks out there for zero trust that can help assess maturity of an organization. We generally break it into two categories. We do what we call zero trust for networks. This is things like end-to-end encryption, which we've had some really amazing, highly differentiated technology for the cloud and how you do high performance encryption at scale with really advanced ciphers and things along those lines. That's our zero trust for networking portfolio. But over the last year and a half, we've really been building out what we call zero trust for workloads, which is how do you do things like microsegmentation, macro segmentation, even perimeter security, so that you can accelerate and improve how things are allowed to communicate on the network. So as an example, last December, there was a really high profile exploit or attack where an organization, they call it Shai-Hulud, an organization was able to compromise a bunch of open source software packages inside of the NPM registry. And I talked to a bunch of CISOs, and they were really chasing their tails, trying to figure out, did we use any of the compromised packages? If so, what happened after that? And there's some very, very basic controls that you can put into your environment to prevent this thing from happening in the first place. I mean, first, determine what package managers you're allowed to reach out to. But second, how do I prevent, once an attacker downloads something, how do I prevent them from establishing command and control or uploading and exfiltrating data? And so those things are things that having really good network security, our zero trust for workload portfolio, can help prevent before you get into that reactive state of trying to figure out, did I get exploited or not?
So what happened here? Have cyber attacks changed?
They, man, definitely, I would say yes and no. And that's one of the most interesting parts about it, right? Definitely the cloud changes things. One of the biggest changes with the cloud is that workloads are so much closer to the internet than they used to be. So when we were on-prem, you had literally a physical cable, and you plug that physical cable into the firewall, and then it goes into your data center, and you can see and control everything that goes between your organization and the internet. When we get to the cloud, that's a software configuration. And oh, by the way, your developers can go and spin up their own environments without even really talking to you. In many cases, there's a shadow IT type of thing going on. There's a shadow AI thing going on now. So that ability to quickly and easily access the internet really doesn't necessarily change the techniques that the attackers use, but it does change the posture and the way that we have to defend the data and the workloads that we have. So cloud really does change the way that these things work. Now, we are seeing attacks get more rapid. We're seeing attackers using AI to help automate their attacks. All reasons why we need to start focusing on better, locking down our environments, approaching things with zero trust principles, making sure we have foundational security controls like network security. Nobody in their right mind, if they put a workload in a data center, would connect that data center directly to the internet without having some level of control. We see that in the cloud all the time. It's because the technology for network security has not kept up with the cloud operational model, and that's fundamentally what we solve.
So specifically, how does Aviatrix's cloud native security fabric and zero trust for workloads directly address these modern or contemporary network threats?
Yeah, excellent question. So I'll take this back to our 8.2 release because it's a pretty big release. One of the things we see in organizations that's changing is the types of workloads are changing. So when you move to the cloud, it's not just virtual machines anymore. And that's really important because VMs, you can deploy an agent on it. You can get your CrowdStrike agent on there, and at least you have some endpoint detection and response, and you might be able to stop attackers that way, although Shai-Hulud did a lot to avoid those types of agents, which I thought was really interesting, very clever. So defense in depth is always a really important principle. But many workloads are no longer virtual machines. They're running in Kubernetes. They're running in serverless functions. They are deployed with automation instead of ClickOps. And so in 8.2, we really enhanced both our support for Kubernetes workloads, as well as introduced our first direct support for securing serverless functions in AWS with AWS Lambda. So you can now be very explicit about securing these workloads, about applying policies to these workloads. In the Kubernetes example, one of the big things that we launched was integration with the Kubernetes configuration itself so that you can shift left and empower the developers to build and maintain their own zero trust policy. And there's some really, really cool stuff that we can do with the open policy agent to help provide guardrails so that now we have this shared responsibility. We can make zero trust work in a way where it's actually faster for the developers to build better policy than you had beforehand with Kubernetes. And so 8.2 is a really, really exciting release for us. It really embraces that shift left policy as code and embraces DevSecOps. It does some things that, almost no firewall in the market today is aware of Kubernetes. So I like to say, as your workloads get modernized, your existing controls are getting less and less effective. If you do nothing, things will get worse without you touching anything. So it's time for us to make a decision and actually modernize our network security infrastructure to optimize it for cloud.
So with that, looking ahead, what should CIOs and CISOs and cloud leaders do now to prepare for the next wave of cloud-based network threats?
Yeah, so I think it's really important to assess what your existing posture looks like. It's really important to assess whether you have the right capabilities, especially in the network security space. Network security, one of those fundamental defense in-depth controls, whether you have the right things in place to secure those modern workloads. Now, beyond that, One of the things that I think is really critical in network security and in security in general is that as the operational model from our app teams and our dev teams gets more cloud-centric, we also need the operational model for our security teams to get cloud-centric. In our mission statement as a company, one of the things that we call out, our mission statement is to secure the world's digital fabric. And then we have a next phrase in there that says, by bringing together cloud, security, and network teams. And what's critical about that is, as a security team, we need to be thinking about how do we make the experience of the developer better and more secure at the same time. And that oftentimes causes a rethinking. Many organizations today still have very tight change management processes where they're submitting a ticket and a legacy system when they need to add a firewall rule in place. I was talking to an organization that has 3,000 firewall rule requests in backlog. And one of my favorite things to ask app teams or developers, they'll come up to our booth at a conference and they'll say, oh, you're not really relevant for me. Like, that's the network team or that's a security team. I'll say, no. I'm really interested to learn from you. What is the thing that annoys you the most about your current security processes? And they'll say, oh my gosh, the change request process is terrible. And so my advice to CIOs and CISOs is to think about, how do we rethink those processes? Because if we can build something that the developers and the app teams love, we will get more compliance and we will ultimately be more secure. And that is the path to being successful with zero trust in the cloud space. And we made some really big advancements in the software in 8.2 to help empower that.
Well, Chris, I really want to thank you for joining me today. This has been very interesting. Thanks for giving us a quick tour of 8.2 and why this launch is so critical. And why your approach, I think, is a little bit different than everyone else's. So where can we learn more about this?
So as always, you can go to our website, www.aviatrix.ai. You'll see one of the core themes of what we're doing right now is those AI workloads are running as serverless functions, as Kubernetes workloads. And you'll see more specific AI-focused enhancements in terms of how do we secure AI agents coming in the future. But yeah, go to our website. Has a lot of information both about our latest release and about the software as a whole.
Well, Chris, I'm looking forward to learning more about how this rolls out and challenges to new thinking. Some food for thought. Take a look, everybody. Chris, thank you very much indeed for joining me today.
My pleasure. Thank you, Doug.
Make voice valuable again. Tressic turns every call and text into action automatically. Learn more at tressic.cloud.